Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyles, community and neighborhoods. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, this past week,
Yes, what about it?
we had some torrential rainstorm, didn't we?
Oh, yes, we did.
I think it was Tuesday afternoon or Monday afternoon.
Yeah, the rainstorms kind of run together.
It was blinding.
It was.
And I was stuck on Highway 1, and I was quietly rooting for a power outage.
I didn't think you liked the power going out.
I hate the power going out. But
Okay.
what has changed since we had our guest on the show in October, and I'm talking about Chris Rhule from Premier Power. Do you know what's changed?
I'm assuming you got a generator or something.
I did. Hurricane Florence took me over the edge.
Yeah, I remember that.
I went to anger management classes.
I'm sure you did. I remember.
90 days, and they gave me a stamp of approval, and they sent me back out into society. Then we had a pretty mild winter.
Yes, we did.
And there were no power outages. And we had this terrible storm when thunder and lightning, and I thought, this could be a temporary power outage, but it wasn't.
Of course not. You were prepared this time. That's why you didn't have a power outage.
Well, we this is going to be. Chris was on the show in October.
I remember.
Shortly after Hurricane Florence, and Chris, my bet is that demand for generators, because you're going to cover a whole host of topics today, but I just bet you that the spike in demand always follows a disaster or a power outage, and then the demand in between, like times like this where spring is sprung, it's quiet as a church mouse.
It's not completely quiet, but it does settle down some. So after Florence, it was imagine being a guy that sold snow shovels after a 3-foot snow.
Right.
And then we had winter, which was mild, but it was also rainier in Southern Pines than it was in Seattle, Washington, on an average winter for Seattle. So there's a lot of things that have to come together with generators, and we still have a high demand of generators right now because people still remember Florence and Michael. We do generators up around Greensboro, and Michael hit Greensboro harder than we had here. But your sentiments on the storm Monday afternoon, everybody that ever gets a generator can't wait to see that thing run.
That's right.
When we have, so we say that we thrive on natural disasters, which is horrible.
Right.
I don't want that. But look, we live in the Sandhills.
Yeah.
Last week, I went through Troy on my way to Charlotte, and there was snow on the ground.
Right.
Last week, and
Right?
so, yeah.
Dorothy's saying yes, there was.
There was, and I've got the pictures to prove it.
Wow.
And so we live right on this line. And what we do is we divide the year in half. You've got warm weather outages, which we're coming into now, the spring thunderstorms, windstorms, hopefully no tornadoes. Remember the derecho, the strange windstorm that we had about 5 years ago that came through. And so we have those storms. Then we get into the possibility of hurricanes in through the fall. And then we get into the possibilities of winter outages, which are ice storms. So, or snowstorms. But longleaf pines don't like ice.
Right.
Deciduous trees that are in full leaf don't like wind when you have straight line winds with tornadoes or thunderstorms and hurricanes. So, yes, the thing that some people said, 15 years ago, they didn't even know what a standby generator was.
Right.
And now you were one of those birds that was on the wire that Florence blew off.
I fell head first.
And went through your anger management.
Cracked my skull open. I was so mad.
and then we do a generator.
I wasn't just mad. I was impatient. which is probably the same
Not
thing.
you, Bill.
Yes. I called you and I said, okay, I'm done. I want a generator and I want it yesterday.
You're an American.
Yeah, I want it yesterday. And I didn't want to wait. And I figured, okay, I'll put the order in, I'll make the commitment, and within 2 or 3 weeks, I'll have a generator.
Right.
It's not that easy. It's
Right.
not like you're going to the store to pick up a bunch of bananas.
That's right.
It took from the time I placed the order to the time, because there are logistics involved when you buy a generator. I want you to talk about it. It
Right.
involves an electrician, and it involves a gas guy.
Yep.
So there are 3 separate parts, and to talk about that whole process, because the delivery was 6 to 8 weeks,
Right.
and from there,
and imagine again, I go back to the snow shovel analogy. Guess what? You ran out of snow shovels.
Right.
All the generator manufacturers ran out of generators, and people were waiting. And why can't I? We're Americans. We want everything 2 hours after we see it, and yesterday.
yeah, before breakfast.
And some of that was manufacturers and demand. We went through our economy went through, for people that are in the building industry, which we were electrically connected to intimately, as a generator company, went through a depression for 8 years. It used to be that manufacturers would only produce generators when they had enough to do a production run. So if the production run wasn't full, they just make little dealers wait and customers wait. What happened with Florence was that it was just a humongous. I know other dealers that were in areas that everybody said the same thing. It doesn't matter what brand it was. It always, it's economic law, supply and demand. Demand was incredibly high, and supply ran out quickly.
So if the spike occurs after a power outage and you get flooded with orders, deliveries, you can tell people 6 to 8 weeks. And then what happens after that? Because it's a 3-part process.
That's right. And you know this because we are in a building boom now.
Right.
Electricians, and I verified this with the Pinehurst building inspector, were over 130% committed before the storm hit. So they have their builders that they are, constantly trying to appease and keep happy. And then you have this storm, and you have all these small jobs, which is what the installation of a generator is, about a day job usually.
Yep.
And you have all of these lined up, and it was just one after another, and then you get rain on top of that, and you don't want to mix rain with so it just was the perfect storm of things that happened. Gas people, they can't bury propane tanks when there's 6 inches of water on the ground, so it just all got really gooped up. But the answer to that is don't wait until you get to be the bird on the line.
So how many times have you flown a commercial flight? Many times.
Right.
And the flight attendant says, as you're pulling out of the gate, we're going to go through a demonstration on using your seat as a flotation device.
Right.
Now, you're flying from Raleigh to Kansas City. There's no water.
Right.
Who's listening?
Right.
Who cares?
Right.
And you're reading your newspaper. But if you're flying from Miami to New York and you're going up on the East Coast, and all of a sudden you hit turbulence.
Right.
Now people want to listen really carefully.
What did she say? What did she say?
How do I ignore? So
Yeah.
You get people's attention after power outages, and they want to hear everything you have to say.
Right.
So you delivered this generator, this Kohler generator, and then you gave me a list of electricians and a list of gas people and said, okay, now you need to contact them because then you've got to get the generator hooked up to your panel board. And that was a lesson for me to learn, to watch the process, how it's done, because it's a whole house generator. It's not just partial.
Right.
And then we had to get in my case, gas versus propane.
Yeah, you have natural gas at your house.
I have natural gas.
Yeah.
That whole process took another 4 or 5 weeks.
Yep.
So I'm 13 weeks out.
Yep.
And fortunately, we had no snow. Nothing happened. And then you came back out once it was all hooked up to run me through how to run it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if I can change a tire, so I struggle with that, as I
Right.
think most people do.
Right. That 9 times out of 10 that your home standby generator is going to come on. You don't need to do anything. You just sit there, boom, the power goes out. Lightning strike down the street knocks the power out. Within 15 seconds, the automatic transfer switch that the electrician installed on your house
Right.
says, hey, we lost Duke Energy. We lost power. We lost utility power. It tells the generator to come on. The generator comes on. It sees that it has another power source to go over, and you're on to generator power in less than 15 seconds.
That's right.
All right. What we go over in the orientation is the worst case scenario, which is a days-long or a weeks-long outage from a Florence, which is a different situation. A standby generator is one thing. Mm-hmm. Now your generator is prime power. It's the only power source that you have, because it's going to be days and days before they get all these trees cleared off the lines. And, why do we have lines above ground? Anyway, that's a whole nother show.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. The thing that we have with a power outage like that is you wouldn't run your car, 6 days straight without stopping it. So you have to stop it, and you have to put oil in it occasionally, and you have to know how to check. There are some things that you have to do in those catastrophic circumstances, and I try to go over all of that with our customers, because it's your warranty between you and the manufacturer,
Right.
in your case, Kohler.
Right.
I think that's the best vehicle to go into one of these situations with, is a Kohler generator, and I've been a Kohler dealer for almost 20 years now. There are other manufacturers, and I have plenty of those dead ones that are sitting out in a pasture, and I want something that I'm never going to be the Maytag man during the power outage. I'm not going to be sitting there alone. I'm out in every one of them. My guys are out in every one of them.
Right.
When you have a generator and you have to run days and days, you need to know a few things to keep yourself comfortable and
Right.
keep the generator running. And
Right.
so that's what we're going over. I have done this again and again and again and again after Florence with all these generators that we're putting in. And I hope that we get to do a video of the tutorial that I give, and that'll make it easier.
Yeah,
for
let's
people.
come back in the second
Yeah.
set. I want to talk about the tutorial that you're going to be setting up for laymen like me.
Right.
So it says ABC, so I can chew gum and rub my stomach at the same time.
I can't.
I struggle with it. We're talking today all about generators. We're going to talk about the difference between portable and home and stand-alone generators, gas versus propane, the care, what the value-added upgrade means for real estate values, and we're going to get into a couple of inspections that you just did on a property that had generators as part of this selling process. Our guest is Chris Rhule from Premier Power. We'll be back in a minute. We're back in our second set, speaking with Chris Rhule of Premier Power. We're talking all about generators. When we closed the first set, you were mentioning a tutorial. It was when you came over to my house after my electric was done, my gas was hooked up to the generator. You put me through a test course, and it was freezing out, and it was dark, and I was shivering. Mm-hmm. And you kept looking at me like, Bill, are you retaining this? I go, yeah. And I knew, 2 days later, I'd forget everything you showed me. But
It's okay, Bill. Everybody forgets me.
Do they?
Yeah.
Because they have to call you when there's an issue. They don't know what to do. They freeze.
Most people just don't do it, but they should. And you were right to want to do it. And it was probably within a week after we did. We call that an orientation.
Right.
After we did your orientation, I probably had 2 other customers said, geez, could you make a video of this? I can't, there's no way I'm going to remember all of this stuff. And I said, sure. And so I knew that there was a possibility that we could do that. And it is really, if you think about it, a generator, when we hear sirens outside, so maybe there's a tree down, maybe somebody's out of power. There's a power outage somewhere every day. There were power outages over in Pinehurst yesterday because they were changing out transformers. And I had one customer that called me that has a manual system on his generator. He has a standby generator, but it's not got an automatic transfer switch like yours. A standby generator is permanently mounted. It's weatherproof. It's outside your house. And you normally don't have to go out to it to start it. And you don't have to stop it from outside. We have remote. And so this guy goes to his garage and goes through this stuff, and he has this laundry list of things to do. If you don't want to do that, you have an automatic transfer switch like you do at your house. This is a big step up from people who have to roll out or carry out somehow a gasoline generator. Gasoline was how I started with generators, but since they started adding ethanol to gasoline, it is a nightmare for small carburetors that are on generators. And so what happens, somebody leaves the gasoline in the generator, the carburetor goops up, the gasoline pickles or goes bad. It's a terrible smell when you have pickled gas. And we were restoring those generators, cleaning the carburetors and everything, and people said, can't you make one of these things run on propane? Yes, you can, but you have a lot of liability there. But there are engineered units that companies like Kohler do that are designed to run on propane or natural gas. Your generator could run on propane if we didn't have natural gas available at your house. It would be 2 kilowatts. A kilowatt is 1,000 watts, a light bulb. Call it a 100-watt light bulb. There would be 10 100-watt light bulbs in 1 kilowatt. So your generator on propane would be 20 kilowatts. On natural gas, it's 18 kilowatts because natural gas doesn't have as much explosion. All a reciprocating engine is an explosion controlled inside. So the natural gas generator, you never have to worry about a tank running out, and you only lose 2 kW. If I had natural gas come into my house, which I do at my business, I would absolutely be on natural gas there. But propane is wonderful because you can have an unlimited amount of fuel. Propane tanks come in 120, 250, 500, 750 and 1,000 gallon sizes. You can store it forever safely. It never goes bad. Gasoline can go bad in as little as a month. So if you don't have natural gas, then propane. And I probably do more propane generators than we do natural gas.
Most homes here are equipped with propane, not natural gas. One of the tips you gave me was you said, okay, assume that your power is going to be out. And now you have this generator, this whole house generator, but don't get too cocky. In other words, still respect the fact that you don't want to light everything up, do your wash, your dryer, cook. You still want to minimize a little bit.
Well, the 2 things that I always tell people is that we go on a laundry vacation, which is mostly the dryer, because the dryer can be 5 kilowatts, and we go on a baking vacation. I don't mind the stove top if it's an electric stove top, but the oven itself can be up to 8 kW. So the generator is usually a much smaller, it's always a smaller power source than the utility is, Duke Energy. But you have to make sure that, if you think of the mental image that I try to give people is of a tractor pulling a trailer. The trailer is a house trailer. The electrical loads that come on in the house as our generator is pulling it down the road can make it get heavier. And we don't want it to get so heavy that the tractor stalls out and stops, because then we have to go through a restart, and we show people what can happen. So by far the biggest energy loads that you have, and your house is a little bit unusual in that in the wintertime you have gas heat. In the summertime, the big load that we have, and that's where your big loads would be,
Right.
is when the air conditioning, the central air conditioning comes on.
Right.
But other than not baking cookies
Right.
and not drying clothes,
Right.
you just live your life normally in the house, and I don't think that's too big of a
No,
burden for
I'm
me.
safe to do all that. Some families with kids might be a little more challenged.
Right.
But the bottom line is you're getting your heat, you're getting your air, you're getting your lights, you're getting your power. You can boil water, refrigeration. I heard the sound of portable generators all throughout Hurricane Florence.
Yeah.
And it sounded like there was a lawnmower at every house running. And
Right.
it does sound like a lawnmower when it's running.
Right. It's a twin cylinder. It's a V-twin engine that they use on all kinds of different applications. When you go from it's an air-cooled engine. When you go from an air-cooled engine to a liquid-cooled engine, your price goes up more than double. So to make this thing palatable to consumers, we go to 20 kW, 20,000 watts, from an air-cooled unit, which when I started doing this, you would have had to spend almost 3 times the amount of money that you ended up spending to do your house. And so this has revolutionized the availability. Yeah. It was a hard pill to swallow when you're talking about a liquid cooled, a car engine. Liquid cooled means it has a radiator on it like a car, and there are generators, especially all around in horse country, on great big houses, and it's the cost of comfort. And so, I started out in the big winter storm we had in 2000. People say, I don't care if I freeze to death. I don't care if I burn up, but I have to have that well pump running for the horses.
Right.
Well, when you looked at what the cost of it was, and then we had that, we had people that were actually burning furniture in their fireplaces. You looked at what it would be to do a heat pump. And a heat pump is a different animal than what you have. You have what's called a split system or a dual fuel system.
Right.
And that makes us keep the generator smaller. But we can do tricks now. Not really tricks, but there are electrical ways that we can make it so that big loads don't jump onto the trailer as we're pulling it down the road.
Right.
Keeping you comfortable. You don't have to go mess with a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
You also said during like a 4 or 5 day outage, your generator will run, it will pick up, but every 6 or 8 hours, you want to turn it off. You don't want it to run 24 hours a day.
Yeah. We had one, and we didn't sell the generator, and now the guy is one of my customers, and I went through the whole thing with you, and he was one of the ones that asked for the tutorial too. It ran 165 hours straight.
That's crazy.
And it popped the engine.
That's like running a car
165 hours at 60 miles an hour. Okay?
Right.
So it is no machine is built to do that. So it needs to come on and off. Buy the book, and the last thing that Americans want to do is actually read the owner's manual. If you don't sleep well, it's great to put by your bed because it'll put you to sleep. So, you need to go out, and this is during those catastrophic times. 6 or 8 hour outage from a transformer being replaced or something like that is no big deal. A 6-day outage is a big deal, and you need to do some things.
Right.
You need to go out. You need to decouple the tractor from the trailer. Make sure that they're apart, shut it down, let it cool off, check the oil. You check it just like you do in a car.
Right.
We go through all of that with our customers. We have some people that can't get to their units. I have elderly customers, and that we can go and do that for them, but we can't. Nobody could have enough personnel to go to everybody during a storm like that. So you have a responsibility as the person that has the warranty with the manufacturer. I go in with my computer to the generator, and the manufacturer says download the event history. If they don't see that you've shut down the generator and the engine's had a catastrophic failure, and I've only seen this maybe twice in 20 years with Kohlers, which is one of the reasons that I represent them. The Kohler engine is one of the toughest things ever made. But it has limitations.
You did for me. We're selling a property, horse farm in Cheline, Connecticut Avenue.
Beautiful place.
Yeah, and one of the and the buyer wanted to do not just a home inspection, a roof inspection, termite. There are 2 generators on the property.
Right.
You came out, I think you installed one of them.
Right.
And when you looked at the one that was by the barn, you said something that I thought was good news, but it was not good news.
Right.
You looked at the generator and said, gee, this generator's been here for 7, 8 years, and it only has 90 hours of activity on it.
It's closer to 17.
17 years?
Yeah, that generator's been there a long time. So
only 90 hours. I thought, oh, good, it's
yeah,
not
that means
old.
it's better than one that has 1,000 hours on it.
Right.
That's not true.
Okay.
It's counterintuitive, but think about this. No piece of mechanical equipment likes to just sit in the weather where you have atmospheric changes. You've got humidity and back and forth and everything like that.
Makes sense.
Seals go and everything like
Makes
that.
sense.
So it is better to run it more than less. I have the same basic generator at the store that I've kept. It's 12 years old and it has 4,600 hours on it, and it's still going strong. It's in better shape.
So when you install whole house generators, you set them on a weekly basis to run
Exercise.
for like a 30-minute to
20
60-minute,
minutes.
okay,
Yeah.
every week.
Every week.
Just so it's like stretching.
Right. It's good for you, and it's good for the windings in the alternator. It's good for the engine to circulate the oil.
Yeah.
It's good for you to know
Yeah.
that the system is running.
Yeah.
If you hear it exercising, there's a 90% better chance that it'll run during a real outage.
So I'll tell you how crazy I am. So mine goes on every Tuesday evening. I schedule to be home. I want to be there to
Yeah.
hear it,
Yeah.
to see how it works.
Yeah.
And when I can't be there on a Tuesday evening at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, I go, oh, God, I missed it. I just want to know what's going on and know that it keeps going on. And it does sound like a lawnmower.
Yeah, it does, and it with the way that it's just a hum. It's better than it's 100 times better than portable generators. If
Right.
you were blocks away and those things, you could hear those. With yours, you're back in the kitchen and you're not. You really don't know that it's going on. Now, if you're back
That's
at
right.
at right where it is 68 decibels. We're speaking at about 63, and they measure with sound measurements in a radius all the way around the generator. One of the things that we've talked about that you haven't done is we can put, and we have to get a piece of communications cable to your from the generator to your server or your modem, your router in the house for how you get out to the internet. And Kohler has a product, it's called OnQ. It'll send you an email. You can have it set up to send me an email every time the generator runs. If there's something wrong with it,
We're going to do that.
we need to do that.
And we're
Yeah.
going to do a tutorial very quickly, right? Very shortly.
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
We're going to come back in the third set speaking with Chris Rhule from Premier Power, Kohler generators, the ins and the outs, pluses and the minuses. It's a great topic, even though the weather's beautiful today. This is All Things Moore County. We're back on the third set of All Things Moore County, talking to Chris Rhule of Premier Power. We have a set. I want to talk a little bit about your commercial business. I understand you were just working with Karen Fry, putting in. I'm assuming that was commercial and not residential. Oh, it was residential.
No, it was residential for Karen. Yeah,
Okay.
and her mom and dad. Yeah. So yeah.
So, but I can understand how businesses, restaurants, for instance, a generator would be a smart business move.
Sure.
For a homeowner,
I think it's a no-brainer, but
for a homeowner,
yeah, it's a big investment.
yeah,
right?
that's what I want to talk about.
That's right.
So, I mean, the one that I put in, once you factored in the cost of the unit, then the electrical hookup and the gas hookup, it was just shy of $8,000.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
and it was a good unit. It took Kohler, but I have to tell you, if you go online and you read consumer blogs and stuff, you will see as many platitudes and compliments for Kohler as you will for Generac, as you will for company XYZ. You'll have, everyone has an opinion,
Right.
and they're all strong opinions.
Right.
And what do people need to know about Kohler that makes them different?
Well, I've been doing this almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And at one point, I was a Generac dealer. When I got into it, you could be Ford, Chevy, and Dodge all under one tent.
Right.
And so we were the major brands: Cat, Kohler, Onan, Kohler, Generac, Briggs & Stratton. There's all kinds of units out there. I can tell you what I have a pasture full of: dead Generacs. There is no question in my mind that, and it's from experience and what you see out there in the field, what lasts and what doesn't last. If you want something, most all of them have a 5-year warranty. You can even get a 10-year warranty on the generator for parts. But when you see what the actual, when you go out and work on them every day,
Right.
you see what really happens. I have never replaced a Kohler generator, or had, to my knowledge, a Kohler generator replaced with a Generac generator. So I'm pretty strong on that. In the industry, people that know and work on generators. Generac is the one that's most widely known, but it is, to me, in my professional opinion, the Yugo, if you remember Yugo cars, of generators. I mean, it is. They've got great marketing. They probably sell 10, 12
Right.
units to every Kohler generator that goes out there. But if you want to make an investment,
Right.
and something that you can, I couldn't sleep well if I sold those products. But we work on them all day long. We work on them every day. So to me, I want to sell something that we can stand behind. Nobody's perfect with a business. We try as hard as we can. I would love to be, like I said, the Maytag man and be sitting at home with nothing to do during a storm. But there's always going to be a battery that's dead, or there's always going to be a heating and air company that came and turned the generator off, or an electrician that turned the generator off to do some work in a house and then didn't turn it back on.
So if you purchase a Kohler generator, like I did, the warranty is between Kohler and me. It
Yes.
has nothing to do with you.
Yes. Well, other than I am the servicing dealer,
Okay.
and I work, as a Kohler dealer, but you are my customer, and the person and I will do everything that I can to make sure that everybody is treated fairly, and it comes out in the right way.
So, but it's either rags to riches. I mean, you will be so busy during a power outage, and in between, probably not as much. How do you handle the onslaught of people and inquiries?
You don't get to sleep much. No, here's the thing that we have with it is, one, you need to be, like the Boy Scouts say, you need to be prepared.
Right.
And part of preparation is to have your unit serviced and ready, and know a little bit about your unit before the storm hits. That's one of the nice things about the OnQ. It'll send me a text message or an email that Bill's generator is exercising, but it's shut down under low engine speed or something like that. There's about 15 different shutdowns. If there was a problem with it, we would know about it before the you-know-what hits the fan of a Florence,
Okay.
and we can address that. It doesn't matter when you have a catastrophic storm. You can't. You have some. You're out there on your own kind of thing with it, but we try our very best to get to our customers, and I think that's one of the best things about the company is that, for the most part, we have a very high fire-off rate, which means the generators come on and do what they're supposed to do. For those that don't and have a problem, and anything that's a mechanical piece of equipment can have a problem. We go out and address those problems as fast as we can.
So the on-cue program is one where you set up my computer and your computer with some software?
Well, it's a cloud-based system that Kohler has that goes between the generator and your modem, and then you go to the Kohler app with your phone. You can do it. You can set the whole thing up with your smartphone.
Crazy.
It is. And I was not a big advocate of it at first, but it really does give you an edge in preparedness.
Right. So you don't want to be caught short. I mean,
That's right.
You don't have that many power outages, but in this area, you have exposed power lines.
Yep.
You have brittle pine trees.
Yep.
You have wind.
Yep.
You have ice.
Right.
You have it's just a net. It's like a petri dish for disaster.
Right.
And they're not going to put power lines under ground in my lifetime.
No, it's cost
Here.
prohibitive. We rebuilt Germany after World War II, and guess who has the most efficient power system in the world? Their grid is on 99.9% of the time. Our grid is over 35 years out of date. Nobody wants to cut trees and have a pasture in front of their house. They want those pretty. It's part of the ambience, of living in the pines, and we're going to leave those pine trees. And it's not a matter of if you lose power; it's just a matter of when.
Right.
That's, I tell everybody, it might be 2 years before your generator comes on. That's fine. A generator starts out as a mechanical sale. A home power system is very much, though, in the end, like an insurance policy.
Yeah,
and what it gives you is
Right.
you hope you don't have to use that insurance policy.
Peace of mind.
But it's nice to know that it's there.
Right.
And it saves you in anger management costs.
I can't go through what I went through. I'll tell you what. I just there are certain things I'm very patient about. Then there are other things I have absolutely less than zero patience for, and that 4-day power outage did me in. I've lived here 20 years,
Right.
and I said, I'm smarter than this.
Right.
I know this is going to happen,
Right.
and I put up with it. And then you go, okay, so it's over. Now you can make a cup of coffee, and you forget about it. But oh my gosh, this time I said no more. I'm not doing it.
No more. Yeah. And so the thing about it is that when you go home on that 5:30 thing, so
Gonna have a
going back
party.
to our orientation
Yeah.
and that here it is. Okay, Fran is hit, or Florence is hit, or Michael is hit, whoever.
Right.
And you're there, and your generator's fine, everything's okay in the house. It's stopped raining. We don't want to do this in the middle of a torrential downpour. You go outside, you have a key to the lid of the generator. We don't want it to blow open. We don't want the generator exposed to water.
Mm-hmm.
You open the lid. There's a breaker to the right.
Mm-hmm.
You turn that breaker off. That breaks the power from the generator going to the house. Everything in the house will go dark.
Mm-hmm.
But the generator's still sitting there running, okay? There's 3 buttons: on, auto, and run, okay? Or off, auto, and run, I'm sorry. So you're in the auto position, and it's still sitting there running, all right? We want to put it in the off. We want to let it run for a few minutes and cool down, because it's an air-cooled generator after we've broken the chain and we're not under load, is what it's called. And we let the generator cool down for a few minutes running. We go out and we shut it down. We wait 10 minutes. We let the oil drain back down into the oil pan. We take a rag outside. We check it just like you do with a dipstick on your car. It's really easy to get to.
Mm-hmm.
We look around. We see if we see anything untoward, any oil, any place like that. If we have to, we top a little oil up. We put a little 5W synthetic oil. And then we're going to restart the generator. We don't push run. We put in auto. If there's no utility power, the transfer switch is saying, hey, generator, it's time to run. So we put it in auto. The generator starts up. We let it normalize. It sounds nice and smooth.
Mm-hmm.
And then we turn the breaker back on, and the house is back under power.
Okay.
Easy.
And it's no different than owning a car that maybe once a year you want to take in for, a full service, and not just an oil change.
Right.
But check the tires, check the fluids,
Yep. the whole
brake pads, the whole 9 yards.
The whole 9 yards, and if the whole system is working, and that's what we do. Okay, we offer service plans for your generator. We do all generators.
Yeah, I want to get on the service plan.
Yeah, and so you get one with you've already gotten one coming to you when we come up on either 100 hours, if we have a big outage and a generator runs, or about 8 months into the year, we'll come out and we'll do a whole system test, change the oil, and then we'll offer you the service contract on it. And it's a whole lot like you do your heating and air conditioning
Exactly.
stuff, either once or twice a year.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
In our real estate business, more and more I see when homes are on the market for sale, we always say, the home in the best condition at the best price and the best location has the best chance to sell in the shortest period of time, and that is true.
Right.
When you see a home that has a generator, a good broker will make sure that it's listed as an advantage. And what it does is it immediately talks about pride of ownership.
Right.
It doesn't say it, it's just unspoken.
Right.
If somebody was careful enough to want to have a home generator put on their home, the assumption is, gee, if they're taking care of it in a bad weather situation, the house is probably in good condition.
Right. I've been told, I had a relative that was an appraiser.
Yeah.
So you bought your generator, just like a car. When it drove off the lot, you had a depreciation.
Right.
Your house is not, say, $500,000 plus the $8,000, $508. But if you had your house and a house exactly like it right next to each other,
Yeah.
you tell me if this is true, because you're and one has a home power system like yours does,
Yeah.
and one doesn't.
Yeah.
Which one has more appeal?
It makes the home with the generator more compelling to a buyer.
Right.
It's an expense that's you might not get it back dollar for dollar, but
Right.
the whole package becomes more compelling.
Right.
Great tip for a lot of homeowners. When are you going to tell me about the tutorial? Because you can have my house. You can
Right.
use my generator. We'll create a studio outside for you.
Right.
I need that disc.
Right.
I'm nervous because I have a hard time with mechanical things. It's just
Right.
not up my alley.
Right.
Next 2 weeks?
We'll get it. Yeah, we'll do it in the next 2 weeks. We'll get Nicole out there and do it. And you're going to be part of it, because I want you to, if you have a question, I do this in my head.
I'll
in
bring my
sleep.
popcorn and watch.
You bring the popcorn and watch, and then I'm going to give you a test at the end of it.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, okay. No, there are no tests with it, but the most of it, once you see it, you go, oh yeah, that makes sense. So it's nothing hard whatsoever. And believe me, if you do this, you will be in the top 1% of all customers, because most people don't do anything. They let the thing run.
Right.
Okay, but if you do, I want to at least be able to say, this is what you were taught, to do, and we want your unit to last you.
Me too.
Yeah.
This is a good time of the year to look into generators.
Sure.
Blue skies. It's
Right.
in the 70s.
Right.
There's nothing imminent happening.
That's right.
Demand is not crazy.
Not crazy like it was.
People
Right.
can call you at 910-315-1099. Your
That's-
office, 940 South Bennett Street in Southern Pines. It's not too far from mine, across from, behind the Champion Car Wash.
Champion Car Wash.
Actually.
Yeah. It was a little house that they first published. They printed the pilot there back in 1940, but we moved there. The office number is 295-3188. We kept our Pinehurst number because so many people know that number.
Okay.
And so, give us a call.
Good.
We do a thing. It's called a generator needs survey.
Right.
We come out to your house, and there's no charge for that.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you come back and talk. You're a good guest. You're a great speaker. Premier Power is the company. Kohler is a generator, and Chris Rhule is the man with a plan.
Yeah, and
Right?
Bill Sahadi can't wait for a power outage.
Can't wait. I'm rooting. I'm buying my popcorn. Everybody, have a great week. This is All Things Moore County.